Good day, everybody. I hope you are well. Welcome to the show. Give me a second to allow people to come through. And I also want to make sure I'm live on Instagram and that you can see me on Facebook. Always have to come in here and just make sure the audience can see me and hear me and everything is Gucci. All right. All right. Okay. I see everything very well. I hope everybody can see me and hear me good. Welcome to the Betterism podcast. It is your girl, Shay Taylor. I'm here again for another weekly show. I have a magnificent guest that I also consider a good friend. We met each other during the watermelon washout experience. While I was doing it, she was kind of watching me do it and following the journey, and it inspired her to get started, and now she is actually still doing it. She managed to write a book during her journey, and she's just killing it. Honestly, I admire her. I look up to her. She is goals. Her name is Dr. Shay Marshall. She is London based, but is an American, and she is from the South. She is a sister. She's beautiful, highly intelligent, and just like she's dope. So I'm getting ready to introduce her and have her introduce herself to the audience. And let's get it popping. Hold on, let me unmute your mics. I think I'll mute. Hey, Shay, how are you? Dr. Shay.
I know, we're twins.
Shay, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Lovely, lovely. Happy to have you on. Thank you for taking the time. I know like you're a completely different time zone. You're in the UK right now, in London. And yeah, what is it like around 6 p.m. ish over there? Yeah. So it's 1 p.m. here, Eastern time in America. It's funny because like you're like in the United Kingdom. I'm in like New England because you know we were colonized country. Even though it's probably not even probably, it's most certainly indigenous. But you know, they had to colonize everything, and now I'm in New England, Massachusetts. There's actually like a New London, Connecticut. So it's just funny how it's just like, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna introduce you to the audience. For anybody who doesn't know you, Dr. Shay Marshall, can you introduce them to yourself?
Yeah. So hi, Shay. Thanks for having me. Before we get into my introduction, I really want to say thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. As you kind of mentioned early on, like I was watching you get started, and it was honestly your vulnerability and your transparency that really encouraged me to take the leap as well, because I just was like, okay, like if she's doing this, I can do this. So it was like you and Ramon kind of served as like the two biggest like motivators for me to really jump in. And so now here we are, like 2 months later. And so for me to be here speaking with you, it's just like a very full circle moment. And also too, like I feel so much better than I did when I first started. And so like it's like a big deal, you know, like I see this as like a big deal, me being here. And also too, like for any of those watching who have not had the pleasure of being able to interact with Shay, like let me tell you what I know about Shay. I reached out to Shay like a cold call on Instagram. She don't know me from nobody. You know what I'm saying? And I just reached out to her, and it was literally after watching one of your videos that you were posting. I remember you were doing your daily vlogs, and so I was just like, I'm just gonna reach out. And you hit me right back. And then you were just very open, and you gave me some really good advice. And even like with me doing the watermelon washout, it was never like, oh, you wasn't like trying to push it down my throat. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, oh, you should definitely do this. Da, da, da. You were just like very gentle with me. You was just like, no, just start where you want to start. You know, like maybe just do like 30. I remember you had the suggestion about just doing maybe like 30 days every quarter. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, that was really, really helpful for me because with this journey, as you know, right, the first step is the hardest. Like once you're on it, you could, you know what I'm saying, you could ride that, but it's like just making that first step was the hardest. And I reached out to you, not knowing you, and you were very encouraging and supportive to me at a time where I really, really needed it. So I sincerely appreciate that because I feel how I feel today because of the words that you gave me that encouraged me to take that step. So I want to start there by just
Thank
giving
you.
you your
Thank
flowers
you.
and being eternally grateful because that to me shows that you are a woman with a very open and a very big heart. And I resonate with that energy and I sincerely appreciate that. So thank you
I
for having
appreciate
me.
you.
And thank you for being nice to me as a stranger. That's so thanks. Um, but a bit about me. So my name is Dr. Shay Marshall. I'm a PhD wellness coach. Like she mentioned, I do currently reside in London, but I am American, full-blooded, and I love that about me and everyone else. Things I guess to know about me. I don't really know where you want to start. I don't know if you really kind of want me to start with my transition or how I like arrived at this lifestyle. I've been raw vegan now a little over 12 years. And when I initially got started, I just again, I actually my transition to being raw vegan was really just something I wanted to do as like a cleanse. Like I initially started out like I got some information that made me question some things. So I was like, I'm just gonna experiment and see how this goes. And so I initially started with doing a 60-day cleanse, and literally like within 3 days, it was like a night and day difference. And then I would say like within that first 2 weeks, I made up in my mind that like, oh no, this is not a cleanse. This is the path moving forward because it was just like so many things got better so quickly. Like brain fog went away. I had tremendous clarity. I had a ton of energy. I felt like my brain was just kind of like working 10 times better. And at the time I was in my PhD, I was in school for my PhD. So we're talking 2 classes a day, 4-hour lectures each. Like each class is 4 hours long. And so, halfway through that class, you're kind of like dozing off. But once I changed my nutrition, I'm ahead of the teacher now. Like I'm keeping up. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just the benefits were so clearly positive that I made up very quickly that, okay, no, this is it. And then so over the last 12 years or so, I have had like some seasons of cooked food here and there, but always going back to raw. And then recently I switched over to being basically 100% fruit based or 100% fruitarian. Um, and I think that's just part of the journey. Like, and I initially started as raw, eating a lot of salads, a lot of avocados, kind of the heavier, denser foods. Um, and then I would say, as I started I would have like fruit season. So always when it's warm outside, it's kind of easier to eat fruit. Um, but then I just started to really accept that, like, no, this is the ideal food and this is really the ideal way to eat. And this is how I feel my best. And as a person who is deeply on a journey of self-love, I also accept that this is the best way I can show myself that I love myself, which is to take the best care of me possible. And so, yeah,
I
that's my
love
journey.
that. Hold on. I'm sorry. I need to make sure that I'm actually broadcasting live publicly on Facebook. I was not. I'm sorry. All right, but I am listening. So, all right. So thank you. Thank you for that dope intro. Thank you for telling us like about your like how you got into this, why you got into this. It's super relatable because like you said, you got into it as a cleanse. And I got into it as a cleanse as well, but for health reasons, because I started off with all these extreme symptoms in my body that literally felt like I was on the road to, like an early death, honestly. And when I got started, what started off as like just like a health journey, it very quickly transitions into a spiritual journey. Because once you start getting all of these high vibrational, super hydrating fruits and vegetables in your body, like you said, you start to get the mental clarity. You start to just feel lighter in your body. You start to have all of this extra energy. And it's so hard to go back to like the sluggishness and all of that. So it's like you can't unlearn.
Right.
You can't like
You can't
unknow.
unfeel it. And this is
Yes.
what I tell people all the time with my clients or with people in general. You don't even know how good you can feel until you start feeling better. Like sometimes you don't even realize how sick you are until you start getting better. And then it's like, for me, one of the things was like really just facing these very uncomfortable truths, right? Because you grow up a certain way, you're raised on a certain lifestyle, a certain diet, you're told to believe certain things. With me being from the South, being thick is in, so you grow up with a certain conditioning and you believe that that is the way that we're supposed to live because that's how everyone around you is living. Mm-hmm. And then once you kind of venture off and start, just making minor changes, you start realizing certain things like, wow. And then once you feel it, like you can't unfeel it. And for me, like the craziest thing for me about this lifestyle is like, there's like no end goal with health. There's never a point where you're like, oh, I'm fully healthy now. I got it. I'm good. I can go back to eating the nonsense. It's like, no. It's a journey. You know what I'm saying? Even with me having been raw for 12 years, I'm still healing. I'm still cleansing. I still have, like I'm still noticing new health benefits. And that's odd if you think about the status quo because I'm aging. You know what I'm saying? So I should technically be getting sicker. I should be feeling worse, but it's like, no, every day or every week I'm noticing something. Like even recently today, I had the wildest epiphany because I used to have this knot like right here in my neck. No idea, just like a knot, and I could like rub my finger over it and feel it. And then today, just randomly, I just like touched back there and it was gone. And I was like,
and that's that watermelon. That is that watermelon.
That watermelon gonna get you right every time.
It's cleansing. It's literally dissolving all of these old stagnant cells. And I bet you whatever that knot was, it was probably like a lymph node or something like that, like an overgrown lymph node, because our lymphatic system is the body sewer system. So it's like when you're stagnant and when you're stuck and you have all this mucus and all these all of this uneliminated cellular waste, yeah, it's going to get trapped in the lymph nodes, which is basically like the body's garbage trucks. Like it stores all the garbage, but it also transfers the garbage into the lymphatic system. And then it gets drained through the lymphatic system and filtered out of the kidneys. But the lymphatic system can barely even drain because the lymphatic fluids are so stagnant. So now that you're doing this really astringent cleanse by eating all watermelon, how many days are you on watermelon, matter of fact?
I'm on like day 64.
That's crazy. You definitely surpassed me. It's funny how I inspired you to do it. And I was like, yeah. And I was doing it in breaks. Like I did like 15 days and then kind of started having some salads. And then I went back on it and did 22 days of all watermelon juice. And then I did another 11 days of all watermelon. So it's funny, like I kind of broke it up, but it's all good. I stayed raw for the most part. And I still felt really good. I still experienced some really deep healing. And you learn a lot about yourself when you're on this journey. And like you said, it is a journey. It's not something that it's optimal if you're consistent and you just do it every single day for a nice stretch of time. But I like to see cleansing as cycles, and you can cleanse in cycles, especially if it seems too overwhelming to do it for like this extended amount of time every single day, because that requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of training of the body. You made a comment about aging, how you said technically you should be aging because you're getting older, but you're finding yourself basically aging in reverse, feeling so much better day by day. And I say that to say that aging is a disease. People think that because you lived another year that you're supposed to deteriorate, but that is a program.
Right.
We're not supposed to deteriorate. We're not supposed to age rapidly. Like, that is just a number. In fact, I think aging is a spell. I think it's a spell that has been casted upon us. So now that we have this idea and now that we celebrate a year that we have been alive, it's almost like we're celebrating because we have this belief that we should be dead because we live in this death culture. So I like the life culture of eating things that have life in it. You know, eating the hydrating things, the things that make us feel more alive, the things that, and it's hard because it's really spiritual because you're not living and making decisions on those lower energy centers. You know, you're not making decisions based on your gut, your stomach. You're making decisions based on your higher mind, like knowing that the gut is better off when it's cleansed, when it's not being um, fed, so to speak, with these like really dense
Yeah.
foods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because, okay, so how I think about it is when you are eating from nature, you're eating nature's food, you can't hide from yourself anymore. So if you even go back to the Bible, right? Like even in the very beginning of time, Adam and Eve were walking around naked in front of each other, right? And again, it's a text. So you have to take things. So for me, sometimes I have to look at like the meaning underneath the meaning, right? So you being naked in the Garden of Eden is not just necessarily you not having any clothes on. It's also like you not having any walls up, right? You're not having any numbing agents. You're not having any, like everything is out in the open. And it was only once that they deviated from what they were supposed to eat that they felt the need to cover themselves. And that's how I feel sometimes about these toxic foods or these processed foods or these unnatural foods. Is like that's what we're using to cover up and hide or try to hide from ourselves. And so oftentimes, like, so my platform, my brand is called Eat to Grow Rich. And EAT is an acronym. It stands for emotions, actions, and thoughts. Because my belief is that wellness is holistic. It's mind, body, and spirit. And so oftentimes our actions are oftentimes dictated by our emotions or thoughts and vice versa, right? So sometimes you have to look at the emotional source for why you behave or why you do the things that you do. And so when we're eating these toxic foods or we're eating these heavy foods, is because there's some emotional wound that we're trying to numb ourselves and trying to escape, or there's some reality that we're trying to escape. And the only difference between food and a drug, or a drug like, an illegal drug, is the fact that one, the government tells you it's okay, and the other, they don't. But they actually behave very similarly in the body. So if you kind of look at the breakdown of processed foods, the chemicals in processed foods, the preservatives, the natural enhancers, the flavor enhancers, those all interact with your brain chemistry in the same way that drugs do. And that's why you see people, online, and they eat. You see all the mukbangers, and every time they take that first bite, they get that first hit, they always have a little dance and a little blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what crackheads do. They behave the same way. It's the same dopamine spike. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it's in lower doses. So you actually just end up poisoning yourself slowly over time, whereas you were doing the harsher drugs, then you would just see those effects more rapidly. But it's the same behavior, it's the same effect, because essentially these are chemicals that are altering your brain. And so if you're in a low emotional state and then you try to look for something to numb that low emotional state, you end up in this pattern, this very depressive cycle of feeling low, trying to numb yourself, having a very short high, and then going even deeper and even lower. And you can see it. Like, you don't even have to take my word for it. You can actually, the interesting thing about the internet and social media now is that it is actually an excellent tool for observing people's behavior and people's pattern over time. So look at these famous mukbangers who not just got started this year or 6 months. Like, look at these mukbangers that have been doing it for years. They always talk about how depressed they are when they're not filming. They always talk about how sad they are. You see their weight go through the roof. You see them aging rapidly. You see skin, all types of things. And it's because, yeah, these chemicals in this food, especially when you're consuming them in an excessive amount, you're going to feel the repercussions of that. You're going to feel that, you know? So oftentimes I tell people it's not enough just to change your actions, right? It's not enough to just focus on the physical health. You also have to deal with the emotional and the mental triggers that are causing you to want to escape, causing you to want to numb, causing you to want to hide. Because no matter what you do, you can do anything for a short period of time, right? So you can go on a cleanse for 30 days or whatever, especially if you got a vacation coming up or you got a birthday coming up. You can definitely, I was one of them. I know I'm talking to myself right now. Like, you can definitely do a little cleanse, a little 14-day, okay, da, da, da. But what is going to keep you really demonstrating self-love for yourself, which is taking care of yourself, giving yourself the things that you need to feel your best, what's going to keep you there is actually addressing the emotional and mental triggers that are causing you to want to escape. And that's hard. And that's where the work is. And when we see a lot of people deviate, it's not because of the food, because fruit is delicious and it's tasty. All types of fruit are good, and even the savory fruits, right, with the salads and the cucumbers and the tomatoes. Like, there are so many different types of fruits out here. So it's never the food. It's never like people are like, oh, the food was nasty. No, fruit is amazing. What triggers us to deviate is the emotional trigger that emotional wound that we're not willing or ready to heal just yet. And that's the truth. And that's the hard part, because that's probably going back to childhood or some very traumatic moment in your history that you have tried to block. And the reality is just you can't escape it. You actually have to go through it so you can grow through it.
Preach. All facts.
I preach all day. You know what I'm saying? But now so.
It's so true. And the mental health component is something that I spend a lot of time on. I spend more time, I'm more successful in my health journey now more than ever since I have started. Like, I've had more disciplined days in my starting days because I was so committed to feeling better in my body. But I actually struggled mentally throughout that whole entire thing because of the stronghold of the addiction of the other stuff that I wanted to eat, plus a lot of the emotional underlyings that I wasn't really conscious or aware of. Like, those were things that were just kind of normalized, stagnant energies trapped in my body that I didn't have the awareness that I needed to like face and release and let go, like shadow work, so to speak. Yeah. So even though I was working on the physical part of it, I struggled mentally and I hit a plateau with my health. Like, I hit a plateau. Like, I started to actually, if not like kind of reverse in feeling better, or I just kind of just like stayed stuck in a place where there were just certain symptoms I could not move past. But it's because of the stress that I was dealing with and the emotions and the grief and things that I had stuck inside of me and resentments and things that I was not letting go of. And then when I became conscious of that, because once you start really cleansing, you start to realize it wasn't really the addiction to the things I wanted to eat. It was the numbing that I wanted to avoid the emotions that were coming up while I was cleansing. And I was getting to a weak point where I was just like not even fighting the cravings, so to speak, but really it was just the suppression. It was just trying to run away. Like you say, you can't grow through what you won't allow yourself to go through. And I
Right.
wasn't trying to go through it. I was like not really trying to feel it at all. And then I would relapse and then go through that cycle of like constantly cleansing and then like detoxing, then retoxing, detoxing, then retoxing. And then it started to create issues of self trust. Like I couldn't trust myself anymore, because I was saying I was going to do things that I wasn't doing. And I was going back and forth with that. And then I was defining myself because of that. And then it became this spiral. And then I started to develop some serious depression and some serious mental health issues, and I was like blaming it on the dieting, when in reality, it was just like I was trying to heal my body and not trying to heal my mind. And
Right.
then I started to realize I need to heal my mind. And when I started focusing on my mental health, when I got into therapy, when I started journaling more, when I started reading more books and literature to give me that insight and perspective about mental health, about stress and its
Yeah.
relation to our health, and really the impact of emotions, low vibrational emotions that we allow ourselves to go through and kind of use as an excuse for why we are, while we're constantly victimizing ourselves from things that we've been through in the past. Like we have to learn how to, yes, we're not responsible for the things that people put us through, but we are most certainly responsible for healing ourselves for the things that people put us through. Stop waiting for apologies from people. Stop hurting people, because hurt people. And then we start hurting people and then using the justification of, why we hurt them because they did it to us, like, or what somebody did. So you have to start really facing yourself,
Yeah.
period.
100%.
And once you get past that, it's going to be so much easier for you to commit to your health journey, because now you're not running away from anything mentally. And
Yeah.
like getting into the meditation, doing the breath work, once that became a normal part of my everyday, when I'm still in that theta state after waking up, doing a 30-minute meditation on becoming or feeling like, and really training my body to have the emotions that I want to feel: love, enthusiasm, joy, gratitude, etc. You have to practice these feelings because you've been practicing grief and sadness and
Right.
depression and anxiety and overthinking and ruminating and self-doubt and limiting beliefs. You've been practicing that for so long that your body literally became your mind. So
Right.
now your body just responds to what you've trained your subconscious mind to do and feel and think and be like all the time. Now you have to start training your body, by training your mind to start thinking about who you want to actually be, and then start
Right.
generating the emotions of that version of yourself. But you have to practice it. And once I started practicing that, I started manifesting, because my subconscious mind wanted to start kind of catching up to that vision, because your body doesn't know the difference when you're doing this. So it's so much deeper than food. Start visualizing yourself as that healthy version of yourself, and
Right.
then start feeling like that person. And I'm telling you, it's crazy, but that's how you quantum leap and quantum jump into your reality.
100%. You tapping into my platform. That's my brand. Eat to Grow Rich is emotions, actions, and thoughts. And so oftentimes what we do and what we coach people on is really that alignment and identifying where the misalignment is. Because like you said, we have become conditioned to behave a certain way, right? Whether that's through programming from our family, programming from our friends, programming from the media, so on and so forth. And so there are often times where we're not even aware that our actions are out of alignment with our emotions or out of alignment with our thoughts, or vice versa, where your emotions are out of alignment. So one of the things that I've discovered on my journey too was when I initially started making changes, I was really just making them for physical reasons, right? I was just focused on. I had just lost my grandmother at the time, and that was the first time that I lost someone where I was actually able to like witness how sickness occurs. Because prior to that, um, death had always happened quickly. Like you would, get a call, oh, somebody got shot and they're gone. Or you would be like, oh, such and such had a heart attack and they're gone. I never saw someone close to me where their physical health like literally slowly declined over time, and to the point to where like we're having conversations with the doctors, and the doctors are basically telling me like there's actually nothing we can do at this point but make her comfortable. And at that time, I never really realized that, like, oh no, you can really get to a point to where there's actually nothing that the doctors can do. Um, and so that made me really want to focus on my physical health, like taking better care of my body, getting in better shape, losing weight. So that was my primary kind of impetus in the beginning. But it was on this journey that I realized that, like you, I too have my cycles of, you know, being fully raw, 100% raw, and then having some emotional trigger that made me want to eat, rice and beans or something just heavier or starcher, and then like kind of doing that cycle. But it was really when I realized that I too had to deal with my emotional wounds. And really but here's the beauty of it, and this is what I want to say, and this is what I hope everyone kind of takes away. It's actually way less scarier to go through it than you think it is. Because all of these emotional things that I have been trying to suppress, as soon as I really just started facing them and accepting them for what they were, and then deciding that, like, actually, I don't have to align to that belief anymore. I don't have to align to that version of myself anymore. It was only then that I realized, like, oh, this is actually it's actually not that bad. Like it's not as heavy as you think it is. The illusion that it's like, oh, it's so painful is really just an illusion. But the moment you just accept that, like, oh, okay, this is part of my past reality, or this is yes, this happened to a previous version of me, but I get to decide who I am today. I get to decide how I show up today. It's really not that hard. And so that's also why the watermelon cleanse was very important, because or why in our initial thing, as I was talking to you, kind of getting started, was I knew that there were some emotional things that I just wasn't really ready to deal with just yet. And I knew that the moment I started cleansing, I wasn't going to be able to run from it. And I was really not ready. But having gone through it, having been on the other side, a lot of the things that I was really having a hard time dealing with or accepting actually turned out to not be bad at all necessarily. Everything happens for a reason. Like I lost a sibling last year. That was very tough. I'm in a new country, just trying to kind of navigate, things with career and social and everything. And I realized that a lot of it really just required a shift in my perspective. And that was way easier to do than I thought it was until I literally went through it. And then I was like, oh, this is what they call a growing pain. This is an emotional growing pain. And it's okay. And it wasn't even that hard. And now for me, like my mindset, the way my mind is set up, every time I do something hard, I feel real like I feel like real tough. You know what I'm saying? Like I start feeling like, okay, like that made me feel better about myself. Knowing that it's like, oh no, we can set this commitment and commit to it. Or we can show up as our adult full self and really handle our business the way we need to handle our business. And sometimes that's really about having tough conversations, even vulnerable conversations. That's tough for me sometimes, to be kind of vulnerable with people, especially like the people that are closest to me. It's like hard for me to be vulnerable with the people that are closest to me sometimes. But it's like, these are the things that let you know who you have around you, right? Like, is this a safe space for me or not? And accepting that, if it is, leaning in, and if it's not, respectfully just accepting the space that needs to exist if there's no safe space there. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like doing that work, it sounds harder to talk about it. It sounds harder in your head than to actually do it. Because a lot of it is just, even with childhood trauma, it's like, but you're not a child no more.
Facts. Get over it. Grow up. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Why we still talking about something that happened 30 years ago?
A lot of us
I'm
are
not saying
children.
that it wasn't horrible, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a terrible experience. What I'm saying is, you have two choices in life. Stuff is either going to make you or break you. That's it. So you have to make that decision. Like, yes, these are things that I encountered. These are things that I experienced. I have to decide if I'm going to continue to let my behavior be constructive or destructive. That's it. And it's very simple. And sometimes it really just takes for you to really just be real with yourself. And that's what I coach people on is like, now we just got to be real with ourselves. You got to be real honest with yourself about what it is that you're really trying to run from. And then realize that, like, you running from something that scares you, what does that make you? That makes you scary, and that makes you a non-believer. And so where's your faith rooted in? You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of get deep into that sometimes and really start looking at it. And what I will also say too is that what I realize more often than not is we have become conditioned to hate ourselves. We have become conditioned to believe that we are not enough. And so that underlying belief really plays into a lot of the behavior, a lot of the toxic and negative behavior that plays into the breaking of commitment to yourself, because there's a part of you that feels like you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not deserving. And that's why I always look at my practices as a way of like, this is how I'm honoring myself. This is how I'm honoring the body that God gave me. This is how I'm honoring my spirit. This is how I'm honoring my mind, is by doing what I know to be best for it at the time, and continuously being on a journey to stay open to learning so that I can just become better and better. Because again, there is no end goal. There's no end with this thing called health. There's always layers. So every time you go through an emotional healing crisis, that's not the last one. You'll be done with that issue, and then you'll keep going on your journey, and then you realize like, it's something else I need to be dealing with and facing with too. But it's important to just be gentle with yourself and to know that that's part of it, right? It's like there's always room for us to grow. We're always babies to someone, you're always a baby, right? So it's like there's always someone looking at you like, eventually you're going to figure it out. Eventually you're going to grow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like just being gentle with yourself in that process and just learning to nurture your inner children, your inner teenager, the inner you. Like learning to nurture that as much as we like to adorn ourselves and take care of ourselves with material things. Make sure you're also like showing that same type of love where it really counts, which is towards your health, mental, emotional, and physical, and spiritual too.
Mm-hmm. That conversation that we have with ourselves every day, be mindful of the things that you say to yourself, because our brains are always going all day. We have so many thoughts flying in and out. And when you don't have people in front of you, you're doing things and you're living your life. And you know that you'll have your moments where you can literally, you'll be out and about, you'll be driving in your car and you're on your way somewhere and you're thinking about a stressor, you're thinking about something that's weighing you down emotionally, it's creating stress in your body, you're producing all of these cortisol hormones, and you're just, you know, creating more issues in your body, and that's outside of what you're already consuming as far as the food like products that we've been normalized to consume. So you stated that we are conditioned to hate ourselves. So what happens is while we're going through these stressors, we're driving around, you know, the powers that be see they know that psychologically, in order for us to consume their products, they're going to create establishments that have these psychological colors that trigger hunger, that trigger cravings, the reds, the yellows, the colors of like the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the things of that sort. So while we're going through these stressors, we're driving to our destination. All of a sudden, oh, we think we're hungry because we see a Burger King. So we stop at the drive-through, and that's us eating our emotions. So you're going through the stressor, you're doing that. Those are ways that we're conditioned to hate ourselves. And so then we eat something like that after we told ourselves that we're going to start a diet, you know, and that we're going to start eating cleaner. And then now the conversation we're having with ourselves is, there's something wrong with me. I'm so undisciplined. This is why I'm fat. Like, you know,
Or
that's the
yeah,
conversation that
or
we're
the
having.
conversation you start having is like, F it.
Yeah.
Start
Like,
on
you know
Monday.
what?
You know what I'm saying? We'll reset on Monday. And then you have to double click into that. And it's like, why Why is it so easy for you to give up on yourself like that? Like,
Yeah,
what
it's
is the
because it's
source of that?
you. It's we deserve it. You know what? I'm gonna eat what I want. It's a stressful week. You know what?
Right.
Matter of fact, I need me a drink. Now you're texting your trauma bonded friendships or family members. Hey, what you doing tonight? Like those are the ways that we've been conditioned to handle the internal struggles. But that's also because we never learned how to cope with the things going on inside of us. And like you said, we're making decisions as children in our 40-year-old bodies or in our 30-year-old bodies and our 25-year-old bodies, making the decision that a 10-year-old made to survive. Then
Right.
now we're not allowing ourselves to grow because we don't want to open the door of the pain. But
Yeah.
and the only way you actually go through it is to not suppress it, to not eat
Right.
it, to not drink it, to not smoke it, and to abstain and to fast and to actually just deal with the emotion and let it flow through you so you're not stuffing it down every time you're feeling it and experiencing it.
Yeah. And sometimes we really just don't know how to cope. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Sometimes you like, I don't know what else to do because this is what everybody around me is doing. So I'm just doing what I saw my mama do, or I'm doing what I see them do on TV. After a stressful day at work, you meet your friends at the bar. That's what you're supposed to do. And it's like there are little things that you can do. So even when you were talking about earlier, like driving around and having anxiety, it's like the first step is awareness. That's the first step, is being aware that it's like, oh, my mind is running right now. Pause and take a deep breath.
Mm.
Just that simple act of saying, getting back in your body, because that's your mind running like that. That means you're out of alignment. Get back in your body. Take a moment, breathe. There are plenty of different breathing exercises on YouTube. You can YouTube breathing meditation or 5-minute breathing session. Take some deep breaths and realize you are right. You know what I'm saying? You are right. We don't even understand the layers of programming that it is to our society. So even a lot of times the music, like I've changed the music I listen to. So in my house, like I've made a playlist of only songs that make me feel good. And only songs that if the lyrics, like if I'm repeating the lyrics, they sound like affirmations. They sound like mantras. Now, I am a Southern girl and I do love my Southern, you know what I'm saying? I love that in those environments. But when I'm at home, I'm intentionally programming my mind. Because the reality is that you shouldn't, it is actually normal. Let me be careful with my words. It's not shocking that people deal with anxiety because there's so much happening around us. There's so much that's happening outside of our control. There are so many things that happen that you cannot plan for. So having anxious tendencies is almost to be expected, especially if you don't have the tools to stop them at the door. And you haven't become conditioned to practicing that level of awareness, then yeah, you're gonna be very anxious because this is a lot going on in this world. It don't matter, it's chaos everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Just depends on what you tune into. So I always tell people, be intentional about tuning into things that raise your vibration. It's about the food, yes, but it's also about all the things that you consume, the content that you consume, the perspective you choose to adapt. One of the things that I'm practicing even in my own life is like, so one of the things that I know I used to have a very, very bad problem with was like taking things personal. So someone would do something to me that I didn't like, and I would make that about me. And it would ultimately be something going on in my mind. It's like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Or maybe I should do better next time. Or maybe I should, And then you start to realize that oftentimes, a lot of times, it's never really about you. It's never really personal. People are just at where they are on their own journey. And so are you. And so it's like learning sometimes to not develop a perception about what you think something means, especially if you haven't even had a conversation with that person, because you sometimes you really don't know. And it's that level of awareness that where you just stop and take a breath for a second and say, okay, before I assume that this is X, Y, and Z, maybe just clarify. I'm just saying, it's these minor things that you can do. Or what I like to do, because I'm like, hey, the world is whatever you believe it to be. Sometimes if I encounter something that I don't see pleasant or I don't feel is pleasant, I'll just create my own very positive narrative about it. Because I'm assuming anyway. If I'm gonna make an
Perspective is key.
assumption,
Yeah.
at least make one that's sushi. That's all I'm saying. Like, just, you know what I'm saying? And you get in the habit of that. And then what you start to realize is like, oh, the more that you kind of project out this positivity, the more that you practice shifting your perspective, you will actually get what you want out of life. And you'll get there a lot quicker than you would if you believe that everything that's happening is happening to you, everybody is against you, that you're not enough, that you're not deserving. The more that you keep kind of with that belief and that subconscious thought, then that will be your reality. But the moment you say, this can really be whatever I want it to be, I can really believe about this what I want to believe about that. And really just start doing that. And you can do that many different ways, right? You can do that just by thinking about it. You can also journal. People talk about scripting all the time. If you have a bad day at work, don't come home and vent to everybody in your household about how shitty your day was. Why don't you just start by journaling a different outcome? Just imagine, like, no, this is actually how my day went. Everybody was great. Everybody in my job is so smart and we get along so well. And do those things. And guess what will happen? You will be surprised at how quickly that energy shifts. And then you start realizing, like, oh, I got some power in this thing. I really get to decide what experience I want to have out of life. These are the minor things that you can do because, again, when you talk about health and wellness, mind, body, and spirit. So if you're having a hard time adapting the actions, healthier actions, then you maybe need to start with trying to develop some healthier thoughts. Maybe start with trying to feel some healthier emotions and just practice that. And here's also the beauty of it. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And as you are consistent, it will get easier over time. And that will just be who you are. You will just be a happy, positive, loving person who is exponentially blessed. And people around you will be like, I really don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I think the best way to be that way is to always measure your success based on your past, not on anybody else's life right now, because I think a lot of depression comes from looking at other people's lives and comparing where we're at in our life to where other people are, especially if we're comparing the peer group, like if they're on our age bracket, if they're, like, so it's important to only compare yourself to where you came from. It's always about being a better version of yourself than where you started. And if you today at this point, if you are actually better off mentally, physically, health wise, financially, educationally, compared to where you were 5 years ago, you're actually succeeding. You can't compare. Don't create a timeline for where you want to go in life, because just see it as this is a lifelong commitment. This is just, it's a journey. I'm not putting a goalpost anywhere. Like, I'll have milestones. I'm going to be grateful for where I'm at. I'm still alive. That means God is still working on me. It's really about being grateful about where you're at right now, always being present and really thinking about where you started and where you are. Don't hone on what's going wrong in your life. Don't see it as something that's wrong. just see it as a challenge, something that's going to refine you, something that's going to strengthen you, make you a better version of yourself, because nothing is ever going to get easier in life at all. You're only going to get stronger. You're going to become a character that knows how to deal with these situations. So things are no longer become problems. They're just inconveniences. Like,
Right.
so this is a little inconvenient, but I'm prepared for it because I've been through worse, and I've actually had to develop in character. I've had to strengthen myself in ways that makes it easier for me to manage this. You know, life is about going through things, having experiences, and then evolving beyond those experiences, because you've had to become a stronger version of yourself to solve that or overcome that obstacle and that challenge. But there is no such thing as problems and issues. That is just a matter of perspective. They're just a challenge. And yeah, sure, you have to rise to the occasion, but that's okay. And a lot of times, I like what you said about not taking everything so personally. What people do to you isn't something that they did to you, it's something they
Right.
did to themselves. Because
Right.
if you value yourself, if you have main character syndrome, if you like, if you're the main character of your life and if you trust yourself, you don't have to trust anybody.
Right.
All you can do is trust them to be who they are going to be, what they show you that they are going to be. And based on what they show you they are, don't victimize yourself based on what somebody else did to you. Basically, you trust yourself enough to have enough discernment to know that you're not going to allow people to mistreat you. All they did was show you who they were.
Right.
Now you like, you know, like, we had a good run, but I appreciate you. I'm gonna love you at a distance. But now you know how to course correct and not have that person in your life. So that is how it's about having trust in yourself, not
Yeah.
putting trust in others and allowing them to create a weakness in you, like a lack of trust or
Right.
feeling, you know, like
Because
now,
then you become just like them.
yeah, no, don't, no, like they showed you who they were. That had nothing to do with you. So we
Right.
have to stop personalizing these things that they didn't happen to us. They happened for us, because
Right.
now we know how to navigate moving forward. It changes the trajectory of our future.
Right. One of the ways that I was able to kind of shift my perspective on that subject matter was really like, okay, there are two things. First of all, I have a universal belief that we are all interconnected and that everyone that you encounter is a mirror for yourself. So if you are, if you are unkind to me, then essentially you're really just being unkind to yourself, because we're all connected. And that energy, especially when you are high vibrational and you do eat the way that we eat, that energy gonna come back real quick. You know what I'm saying? So you just really need to be careful. But the second thing too is, one of the other ways I've been able to shift my perspective is really understanding that, okay, when you say that it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Yes, and it happened for my growth. This person is showing me or helping me to realize maybe a wound that I haven't really dealt with. Because why would I be affected by that? If there wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, why does it even bother me? Start there. Like, I always make this joke or whatever, and I'm like, if somebody does something that bothers you, it's because it's triggering some deep wound or some deep kind of negative belief about yourself. Maybe just start there and start shifting that, and really intentionally being like, no, we're just gonna turn the knob to the other way, because you didn't realize, maybe you didn't realize that you set your perception to a negative outlook. Okay, cool. But the moment you realize that, oh, this is bothering me, that's because it's triggering some negative belief about yourself. Shift it and figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta really kind of do. You can work through your own emotions if you're willing and ready to be honest with yourself about what's bothering you and why,
Hmm. You
and
know,
accepting that that's not even true. That's not even real.
it's funny because, like, you know, the way people respond to how we are being ourselves, because, like, it really is like brave in this world. It's courageous in this world to be yourself without filtering yourself, without making yourself more palatable, without like to like genuinely just be who you want to be, speak how you want to speak, whether you want to cuss, whether you want to talk about unconventional things, whether you want to believe in conspiracies, whether you to be bold enough to voice out anything that doesn't kind of like fit the mold of official narratives is like the bravest thing to do. Or to even just speak an opinion about something that would be considered mean or whatever, even though it's true, it's very brave to be that kind of person in this world. It takes a lot of courage, and it's actually hard to do because I find myself now being who I want to be, speaking how I want to speak, right? But I'm noticing that people who I thought were friends of mine, they are falling off. And I'm not even saying anything wrong, in my opinion. I'm not saying anything offensive, in my opinion. I'm just telling a truth,
Right.
the truth. But the truth isn't easily absorbed for people who are living in defiance of that. You know, so if their reality is something that I say, well, for example, when I talked about the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich being a deceptive term because it's really dead pig flesh, it's really the ovulation of a chicken, and it's really the secretion of a cow. Like that's really what it is. But
I know, it's so crazy.
people got triggered by that
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me how speaking the truth triggers people, and then they come for you and make you feel like you're a bad person. They try to tell you how you should communicate your message. They try to tell you how to use your platform in order to reach certain people. I think it's important to try to reach everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be exactly who you are and to
Yeah.
attract your tribe, because you're never going to make everybody happy, and you're not responsible for other people's triggers. Like
100%.
those triggers are their responsibility to work through, and it's important to not change who you are and who you want to be to make people comfortable. Now, if you personally feel like, okay, maybe I am doing something wrong because the feedback is telling me that, you know, I'm losing a lot of people, whatever, you can decide whether or not you want to change based on that. That's called natural progression and evolution based on your experiences. And I just think it's important for us to again have a main character mindset, because that is what's going to put you on the path you're supposed to be on. That's called living in alignment. And unfortunately, you're going to learn that not everybody's going to go with you. Everybody's not going to be along for the ride, but it's
Well,
important.
look, look, Harry already told us she couldn't save everybody. She said half of them didn't even know they were slaves, didn't even believe they were slaves. Even the same thing with Jesus. Jesus couldn't save everybody. You know what I'm saying? You can't. And that's one of the things I do appreciate about these online communities, like the one that you started. You know, I love that group. I love your group. Kev's community, Bobby Smith's community, Jillian Berry. What I really appreciate about these communities is like, oh, these are like-minded people. We have at least crossed over some degree of really accepting, like, okay, at least we know what our real food is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's okay. Like, you're not going to be able to reach everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
okay. That's the road less traveled. And there's even a scripture in the Bible that says that the road to, and I know, like, don't get me quoted on the actual words, but there's a scripture in there that talks about like the road less traveled, and how like the road to destruction is wide and many will follow, and like the road to I forget what they say, but it's like a narrow road, and it's because very few people are willing to have the conversations that we're having out loud with each other, but also with ourselves, to make that commitment. Very few people will get to that hard part and not cave. I saw Bobby posted something earlier today. He talked about how he was at the gym. Now, Bobby, that's a strong man, because Bobby be at the gym every day, 5 a.m. Every day, 6 a.m. He on live. That's some commitment. And he shared a moment of transparency and a moment of honesty where he was saying, like, today was one of those days he didn't feel like doing it. But guess where he was? At the gym, doing what he said he was going to do. And that's what's always going to separate the real from the fake. That's going to separate the talk from the walk. And a lot of times people just be talking. You know, people just be talking. Even when they coming at you and they saying something about how you should be living, you have to understand that they really talking to themselves. That's really how they feel about their choices. And so, and then to me, I always think about it like this. Like, I do a lot of silent praying for people, because I can see sometimes that people don't even see the delusion. They don't even see the delusion they're living in, or they don't even see their own misalignment, right? But it's like, you actually don't have to take my word for it. You actually don't have to believe anything that I say. But one thing you should not do is talk about something you have never done before.
Say it again. I swear. You know,
let's start there. So if you're talking to me about something you've never done, I really don't care, because at this point, you just talking.
it's just an opinion.
You just got something to say. And what you're really doing, this is what I want everybody to understand. You really just exposing yourself. You really just exposing yourself, and you let me know everything I need to know about you, and I really appreciate that, and I'm gonna pray for you, and let that be God's work, because I'm not God. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have the time or the patience, and I can't take on everything. I can't take on your delusions of grandeur. And I definitely do not tolerate disrespect. I have a very, very, very low threshold for that. So a lot of stuff I don't even entertain.
I delete it, block.
I'm not the one for that. You know what I'm saying?
I block them.
And you would never do that to me. You would never say any of that to me in real life.
That's the thing about the internet.
And that's the thing about the internet. It's like, okay, y'all just over here playing, but y'all go play with somebody else though.
Yeah, that's the internet. People really bold. People are really bold. Like, they'll come on your platform.
Cowards. That's not even bold. That's very cowardice. That's very cowardice. Bold is looking at somebody doing something that is good for them, and then saying, you know what, I should be doing something better for me today too.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that's
bold. A coward is sitting online behind a screen with Twitter fingers.
Yeah. But, you know, that goes back to not taking anything personal that other people do, because they're really doing that to themselves, because that's an opportunity for them to learn. That could be a person with health issues, and they know that they may have diabetes, and they are saying that eating fruit will cause diabetes or spike blood sugar and this and that. And these are the things that they're saying because they're triggered, because they know that they eat in a way that has contributed to their current state of health, and they don't want to have to change because they're emotionally attached to the things that they consume. So they're not, we can't take their opinion or their lack of knowing personally. They're hurting themselves. This is an opportunity for them to actually reverse their health issues. Like, maybe if you just sat down, be quiet, and listened and learned and tried, use your body as your own laboratory, instead of allowing a white coat to use your body as a laboratory with all of these these pharmaceuticals. You know, it's just like, but neither here nor there. And I block them. So it's like, sorry, you're lost, because now you don't even have access to at least allow your subconscious mind, allow the seeds to be so, because I don't have the patience. I'm not going to let anybody come on my platform, disparage me or any of that. I don't need any of that.
But it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. I'm always open for intellectual debate. I love a good intellectual debate. Challenge me on something, I love it. But to just get up here and talk, and one of the things too, again, we talk about shifting the perception, right? The perspective. One of the other things I do when I see certain things or I see certain behaviors is, again, I try to give grace and compassion where it's necessary. And so one of the things that I understand about mental health, and about how not even just your mental health, but your mental capacity and your brain's ability to function, we need to understand that the brain is an organ and it does live inside the body. And so if you have an unhealthy body, you cannot have a healthy brain in an unhealthy body. If you are not being able to supply your organs with the proper amount of nutrients, the proper amount of hydration for it to function to even just normal capacity, if you're not doing that, then of course you're going to say some wild stuff. You don't even know what you're talking about. The brain ain't even firing like it's supposed to. The brain is electric. And you have suppressed it so much that it's not even firing. It's not even working the way it's supposed to. So that's why I say you have to just pray for people. You just have to pray for them. Like, pray that God helps them find their way, honestly. And also, to use that as a moment to be very grateful about your own journey, because I know for a fact there were definitely things that I was very ignorant about before I started to educate myself.
Me too.
I wasn't foolish, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't a coward. I wasn't out here talking about how other people are living, but I have had to shift my own perspective. I remember the day I found out, the day I was finding out information about health and nutrition, like really getting aware of it, I was really like, well, what about chicken though? I thought chicken was healthy. Like, I was trying to find every way to hold on to like these certain beliefs that I had become conditioned to believe, right? Because at that time, I kind of grew up in that like chicken breast, like grilled chicken breast. I grew up in like the George Foreman era. So like chicken breast and broccoli was supposed to be healthy food. You know what I'm saying? So when they telling me like, nope, not even chicken, I'm like, you lying.
Yeah,
Not chicken. And come to find out, ain't no difference between none of them. Ain't no healthy meat. It ain't no difference between red meat and white meat and shellfish and all of that stuff. Your body perceives it the same, which is as a poison. It does not see that as nutrition. It is not able to break that down. And I also want to say this too, because another thing I see kind of trending on like social media and people talk about a lot is like this concept of like you need to eat meat for protein, right? And this is what I challenge everybody to do. Sometimes just break stuff down very simply. Like you don't have to overcomplicate this. A lot of this is so simple that if you just think about it like a child would think about it, you'll realize that don't make no sense. Because the idea, right, is that we need to eat animal muscles in order to build human muscles. That's the idea. The idea is like, oh, if you want to be strong and build muscle, you need to eat animal protein. And then, okay, well, what is animal protein? What is a chicken breast? What is a chicken leg? Like when you're eating that, what are you actually eating of the animal? You're eating their muscle tissue, just like we have muscles. So the idea is that they're telling us that if you eat the muscles of cows and the muscles of chickens, that it will build human muscle tissue. And then you just have to ask yourself, do that even make any sense?
There's the person who coined the term protein and did all the scientific studies, I cannot even think of his name right now, but this goes back some time. I actually looked at some of the research and they said that the most bioavailable form or source of protein is from plants.
Yeah.
So every animal that we're consuming the flesh of built and created their protein from the plant life. So literally we're going to the middleman. Well, not we, but
right.
They are going to the middleman to consume animal protein in order to build protein within themselves, not understanding that the human biological vessel is literally a machine that is not only self-regenerating, self-repairing, but also it literally sustains itself, self-replenishing. Right. So when we consume plants, our bodies actually receive the amino acids to build its own protein profile designed for our human biological makeup. So we have zero trust in our innate ability to
Well, it's
heal.
not. It's just that we've been programmed to have certain beliefs, and so that's what I'm saying. If you just break it down as simple as possible, right? Okay, so you telling me I should eat chicken muscle to build human muscle? Well, if that were true, then technically, like if I could eat muscle tissue to build my own muscle tissue, then it would actually make more sense for me to eat humans. If the logic is true, if the science is true, right? If the logic says that, okay, if I eat animal muscle tissue, it will build human muscle tissue. If that were true, then the ideal protein source for humans would be other humans.
Mm. That's
I'm
true.
just saying, you got to make it make sense. And that don't make no sense. But they'll tell us anything, they'll call it something different, give it a cute little name, and the next thing you know, we got to have our grilled chicken breast for our muscles. And it's like, that don't work. That's not how that works.
I see that a lot because I'm like on my fitness journey now, and I'm in a lot of fitness groups, and I'm noticing that a lot of the meals that they share, they're so big on protein. The
Yeah.
literally abundance of protein that they're putting on their plates, like they'll have like avocado toast with eggs, with a piece of chicken breast, with a yogurt, and they're like, I got to make sure I get my whatever, like 63 macrograms of protein. They're just like barely any carbohydrates, barely any like fibrous high water foods. And when you do post like a fruit instead of like as a like I'd rather eat fruit than candy, they'll still be like, well, it doesn't matter. The body still metabolizes sugar is sugar. Like it's like the programming of disinformation that literally has us self-destructing, thinking that we're doing something good for ourselves. So yeah, you're going to build your muscle, you're going to sculpt out your perfect body, but you're also going to end up developing kidney issues. You're going to end up, you still end up pre-diabetic. I'm seeing this in a lot of these fitness groups where people are like, I work out all the time, I eat healthy, because they genuinely do believe that they're eating healthy. They don't believe they're doing anything wrong to themselves, but they've been programmed to believe because all of this information is out in these fitness areas telling them to do whey protein, to do creatine, to have all of this so-called
like, none of that make any
protein stores, and they're doing it and they're working out hard and they're building their bodies and they're building up a lot of muscle. But I'm noticing that the 45, 50-year-old ish women, they're starting to talk about, well, I just found out I was pre-diabetic. Doesn't make any sense because I've been working out every day of my life. I'm super fit. Being fit does not mean that your internal organ systems are optimizing, because you're legitimately making them work 10 times harder, especially the eliminative organ systems.
Right. Because here's also the other thing too, right? So again, I always tell people, you don't have to take my word for it. Just try it out for yourself. It don't matter how much protein you eat, you're not gonna build muscle. But I have watched even when I'm not working out as heavy, or as like if I'm not let's say I'm not lifting weights as consistently, if I'm eating primarily fruit, the muscle will actually tone itself. The muscle will actually tone itself off of fruit. You can sit around and drink protein shakes all day. You're not gonna build no muscle. The only way these people are actually building muscle on that diet is because they're in the gym lifting weights.
Yeah, the mechanical.
And that is how you build. That is essentially how you build muscle. Building muscle tissue is a metabolic function, which is the result of you have to break the tissue down and allow it to build itself back up. And the way you build it back up is when you're feeding off of fruits, you're giving your body not just the hydration, you're giving your body the amino acids, you're giving your body the macro and the micronutrients. And also this stuff is electric. So you're actually helping the body to function better. So it's like, one of the things that you should consider again is that everything works together to support one another. So when you're eating a healthier plant, when you're eating from nature, you're giving the body the ideal fertilizer to grow its best self. And again, just try it out. And also, again, you don't have to take my word for it. Just look around you. Look at how many people are drinking, because we always focus on the exception and not the rule, right? So we look at the Instagram and social media when it comes to these fitness pages, are full of the exceptions, not rules. If you want to see what protein is doing to the body, just look around you at everybody who eating protein and ask them where their muscles at. If protein built muscle, everybody that was eating protein, if animal protein built human muscles, everybody that was eating animal protein would have the best bodies.
Yeah.
And that is not true.
Now they have too much fat and they have too much,
right.
when their bodies are overburdened with all of that. I love how you said that the stuff that we're eating, so like you said, fruits will help you actually form your muscles a lot easier. And then you said that, and it's electric, so everything works really good together. And that gave me a thought. We have organs, right? Think about how they call instruments organs, and think about the orchestra symphony, how all the different organs are being played by different people. Think of each musician with a different organ in their hand, a different instrument, playing their part, and then they are harmonizing together, and then this beautiful symphony orchestra, this beautiful music just comes along that works together. And that's literally the organs in our bodies. And then the way, if they're working optimally by like the different types of food groups that we're designed to consume going inside of us, and then us having mental health and us moving our bodies, all these different parts of the orchestra, so to speak, that helps the body optimize and have this beautiful symphony of function, so to speak. So I don't know why that just came in my brain. I just had
to. No, that's actually a beautiful analogy and a beautiful metaphor, because I actually used that metaphor in my book. So in one of my books, The 3F Effect, How to Lose Weight Quickly with Fruit, Fasting, and Fitness, I break down for each one of those components, fruit, fasting, and fitness, how they support physical health, how they support mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And one of the things is when we talk about what happens when you combine those three effects together, the fruit, fasting, and fitness, you really create this symphony, this harmony where everything is flowing in the right direction. So you're feeding the body the food that it needs to live optimally, what it was naturally designed to consume. And then with the fitness, as you are, again, building muscle, because one of the fitness, there are various types of fitness, but I always tell people, if you're getting started in fitness, this might be controversial, but I always say, start with strength training. Start with strength training, because if you are coming from a sedentary lifestyle, then you probably have poor muscle development. If you've never had a history of intentionally lifting weights and building muscle, then you probably have a very high fat to muscle ratio or a very high fat to body weight composition. And the quickest way to reverse that is to start by building more muscle, because one of the benefits of building muscle is that muscle actually will burn more calories over an extended period of time. So when you lift weights, you're actually still burning calories after the workout is over. And then also, too, the more muscle that you build on your body, the more fat that you naturally burn. So that is one of the things I suggest. But the beauty about combining the fruit, the fasting, and the fitness together is that they all support one another. When you're eating a highly hydrating body, you're eating foods that are full of nutrients, full of enzymes, full of amino acids, that's really what it does is it satiates the body, so that when you do have a fasting window, you feel full. That is also one of the benefits too that I love about this watermelon cleanse, is that my body is so hydrated that it's actually been very easy to keep to the watermelon because I'm not hungry.
I love that.
My body is satiated. It's getting all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients. It's fine. And then also too, when you're adding in the fitness component, again, with strength training, you don't have to go as hard. You don't have to work out as long. You can really, even if you're just starting out, honestly, if you're starting from nothing, you can really get away with like 20 minutes of strength training 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week, especially if you combine that with the fruit and the fasting, and you'll see tremendous results very quickly. Because again, like the body is able to is able to operate optimally. And so everything is supporting one another. So you're not eating necessarily low calorie because you're eating fruits. You're eating digesting and quickly eliminating foods, which is what you want. You want that food. You don't want it to sit in your body. You want it to come in, do its job, and then go away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're eating those foods that are able to eliminate easily, you're working out, you're doing some fitness, so you're building muscle, you're burning more fat. And then also with the fasting, when you go into a fasting window, what you do is you allow your body to digest what has not been digested. And so that's also helping with the cleansing to help remove the undigested processed foods that you may have been eating previously. Because I'm here to tell you that most of the bellies that we be looking at is not always just fat. A lot of it is the colon extended because it is full of undigested, unprocessed foods. And so if you got belly, even a little one, you probably need to do some internal cleansing. And when I say properly, I mean you need to do some internal cleansing.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what that is. It's that undigested food that's been stuck in there. There are no enzymes. It's been stuck in there for years, and now it's sludge. It's full of mucus, maybe even worms and parasites, and it's just stuck attached to the colon wall. Cleanse it out. And you do those things, you will find your ultimate health, your optimal health very quickly. And then you just rinse and repeat. And you don't have to be perfect with anything, and you don't have to be extreme. You just have to be consistent. So I always tell people, because I know everybody's not gonna eat all fruit, but you can at least do fruit for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can do all fruit for breakfast. That's easy. That's not even hard. That's grabbing a bag of oranges. That's grabbing a smoothie. That's grabbing a fresh juice. You can do fruit for breakfast. You can start there.
It's the compound effect. You just do what that 1% of the time every day. It's going to compound over the course of a year.
And then it becomes easier to go further and to go harder if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just have to start. It's about building it's about training your body by practicing. Repetition becomes a habit. And even if you're not doing it you can do it 1% of the time in a day, or if you don't do it every single day, you can do it mostly every day, and you're still training. So
and
it's
just start.
Yeah.
Start. If you're doing nothing now, just do something. And then say, okay, so like in the 3F effect, what I always advise people to do is to set a 7-day goal. So one of the things I coach is that you need to understand the difference between a target and a goal. Sometimes we think our goal is, for example, the weight we want to lose. Like, okay, my goal is I want to lose 50 pounds. That's not your goal. That's your target. Your goal is the behavior you're going to change in order to reach your target. So, for example, if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, okay, I always advise in the 3F effect, you should set a goal for your fruit, a goal for your fasting, and a goal for your fitness that you're going to commit to for at least the next 7 days. Start with bite sizes. Okay, cool. Let's say you full standard American. Right now, you sedentary, you don't do nothing, and you don't have you eat from sun up to sundown. Start small. Say, okay, for the next 7 days, I'm going to my fruit goal is I'm going to eat only fruit. I'm going to eat only fruit for breakfast. My first meal of the day will be fruit. My fitness goal, again, you starting from nothing. Okay, for 3 days, for three out of the next 7 days, I'm going to commit to at least 20 minutes of strength training. Again, this can be at home. This can be resistance training. You could be at the gym. YouTube is a great resource. There are plenty of at-home 20-minute strength training exercises you can do. Dumbbells, if you don't have dumbbells, you could get you some gallon of waters or something heavy. And just start there. Say, okay, I'm going to commit to doing that 3 times a week. And then your fasting window. I always encourage everyone, you need to have some form of a fasting window because you need to give your body time to rest. You need to give your body time to digest the food that you're eating. Whether it is quick eliminating food like fruit or whether it is processed food, give yourself time. And the more processed and meat that you have, more processed food and animal products that you have in your diet, you want to give yourself a longer fasting window so that you give your body more time to at least try to rid itself, right? To try to cleanse itself. So, okay, cool. You got your first goal, which is fruit. You're going to do fruit for breakfast every day for the next 7 days. That's your fruit goal. Your fitness goal is you're going to commit to working out for 20 minutes a day for 3 days out of the 7. Your fasting goal is okay, you're going to commit to at least a 16-8, if not an 18-6 eating window, which just says, okay, I'm going to eat, for example, between 10 and 6. That's 8-hour eating window, or 12 to 8. So if you're not big on breakfast, then make your eating window later. If you are not big on dinner, then make your eating window earlier. And then just commit to that for 7 days. And then what you do, how you reach your target, is you set these goals for the next 7 days. And then at the end of those 7 days, you measure yourself. Did you move closer to your goal or further away? If you moved closer to your goal and you were happy with the pace, keep doing what you're doing. Do another 7 days. If you moved closer to your goal, but you want results quicker, let's say, okay, you did that for a week, you only lost 2 pounds, but you know you want to lose more, you want to be averaging maybe more weight than that. Okay, cool. Look at one of those 3 F's and go harder. Okay, this week we're going to do fruit for breakfast and lunch every day. Or we're going to do our eating window from, instead of doing 10 to 6, we're going to do 10 to 4. Or instead of doing the fitness 3 days, we're going to bump it up to 5. Or maybe you're going to do all 3 of those things. And then again, at the next 7 days, check yourself. Did you move closer to your target? Did you move further away? Did you like the pace? Go again. And it's just it can be as slow or as gentle or as fast as you want it to be. Some people want to jump in overnight. All right, cool, let's go. All fruit for the next 7 days. See how you feel. If you feel good, you might have some little bumps as you first get started. You might have a little headache here and there. Blah, blah, blah. We explain that in a book. We tell you how to detox for those. Go through it, get through it. You got to go through it to get through it. And then at the end of the 7 days, did you ultimately feel better? Reflect on that.
Mm-hmm. You remember,
Yeah.
So you're going to measure your success from where you started to where you're at now. You ain't comparing yourself
That's
to what everybody else got going on. If you lost 2 pounds, guess what? You are going in the right direction.
You're going in the right direction, so keep going. And I know we often say commit to the process or trust the process. But I tell my clients, trust the results. Commit to the process, but trust the results. If you're eating a certain way and every day you got a headache, you groggy, you frustrated, you gaining weight, you don't know why you can't get it off or keep it off, the results is telling you that your lifestyle is not supportive to your best self, your best health. If you start making these changes and you start feeling better, the results are showing you that you're moving in the right direction. Don't just trust the process, trust the results. Because you might mess around and trust the process for too long and be waiting for those results to show up, and they never do. So commit to the process. Say, this is what I'm going to do. Set your goals at a level that feel realistic for you. And commit. And guess what? You only got to commit for 7 days. 7 days, that's it. Okay, we're just going to do this for 7 days. Because in 7 days, you'll know if it's working or not. You're going to know pretty quickly, really, within the first 3 days. But 7 days is enough time for you to be able to evaluate, are these changes constructive or destructive? Am I moving closer to my target or further away from my target? And then rinse and repeat. It's very simple. It's really not that hard. It's just a matter of doing it and accepting that there are some uncomfortable truths that we have to accept if we want to get healthier. And I'm telling you, there is nothing healthy everything healthy comes out of the ground.
Amen. It's real food. Only God creates food. With that said, I mean, we're about an hour and a half in. You have really brought some valuable information to this, more than I even expected. I know you were talking about your 3F, what is it, the 3F effect, and you have the fasting and fitness, and you also have the enema book. Let people know where they can find your literature. I'm actually interested in some of this. I can't wait to listen to this on the playback. It's so valuable, a lot of the information that you provided. So let people know where they can find you. And, if they're interested in your book, like where we can get that. And I'll actually put it here in the post.
Okay, awesome. So I have currently published two books. The first book was called Flush the Junk, and it's a comprehensive guide to enema and detoxification. And again, that is really just a protocol and a methodology for how you do your internal cleansing. Because I often see, oftentimes with my clients, they may be new to enemas. I also see there are a lot of myths and misconceptions kind of floating around the internet. So I just wanted to kind of publish a book with the science and the data to support the fact. And one of the things that we should know about internal cleansing through enemas, this is a practice as old as time, right? This is nothing new. This has been going on since the ancient times, and across various cultures. And it is a very necessary process. My second book is called The 3F Effect, How to Lose Weight Quickly with Fruit, Fasting, and Fitness. And again, this is just the framework and methodology for how to align your health with the better behaviors, and how to really harness the synergy of those three: fruit, fasting, and fitness, for very quick weight loss. Both of my books are available on my website at www.eattogrowrich.com, and they're also available on Amazon as well. So you can just either Amazon search my name or either the titles of the book, and they'll both come up. They're both available for Kindle and paperback, and then the 3F Effect is also available in hardback. And there's also a companion guide for the 3F Effect that really walks you through basically how to journal and track your progress as you continue to work towards your targets. So, yeah. And also, too, you can also always find me on social media. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as Eat to Grow Rich. Eat, EAT, the number 2, GROWRICH. So Eat to Grow Rich across all social media platforms, including YouTube.
Absolutely amazing. I'm gonna need to have you back on. I might need to have you on as a segment because that you know what you're talking about through experience. You are helping people. You're a coach, so you're coming from like even anecdotal, and you're good with mindset, and I feel like your message comes across. The audience received you super well. We have a lot of engagement in the chat, so this is really nice. Thank you so much for coming on. If you have any lasting words, let me know. Otherwise we can wrap this up. I just want everybody to know that every show that I do have is sponsored by A Game Herbal. A Game Herbal, you can get on agameherbal.com. You can use my discount code L Taylor 15 for a 15% discount. I actually am on my A game today. I use it as a nootropic, honestly. Like, yes, the lifestyle is everything. Eating clean, moving the body is so good for mental health. But sometimes you just want and need that boost. And there's something about the synergy and the blend of those Chinese medicines, well, Chinese traditional herbs, that just, it's like a coffee without the crash, without the damage to the kidneys. It gives me that extra energy, that extra boost. It just helps me pay more attention and be that much more insightful. So agameherbal.com for a 15% discount. And I guess we will close it out there. I'm sorry, unless you have any final words.
Yeah, I would say just my final words. Again, thank you for having me. It was definitely my pleasure to be here. Also, the most gratitude just for you being a kind soul, because you're part of the reason why I'm here. So thank you for that. And then also to anyone watching, I just want to say, I love you. You are worthy of love. You are deserving of love. You are love itself. And I just ask that you kind of carry that with you and project that out to anyone that you may encounter. It's just the spirit of love. I think we could all use a little more of that. And so it's just to know that life is good. Life is really good. And you are deserving of the very best. And so never settle for less than that. And never let anyone make you feel like you should be settling for less than that in any area of your life. But also understand that the change starts with you. It starts with you loving yourself enough to do the work.
Amen. I love
so
that.
we got you. So yeah.
Absolutely. Always feel free to reach out. If you ever need any guidance, any advice, I'm always here. My inbox is open. So it might take me a little bit to respond because I do get a lot of things going on, but always open. And I'll see you next week. I have another guest coming on. I don't know what day yet. Usually different. I don't have the traditional same time, same day. I like to work around my people's availability because I have an extremely flexible schedule. And I just like freedom. I like flexibility. I don't like restrictions. I don't like limitations. I'm just a free spirit. So, thank you so much, everybody, for being on. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the live stream because it puts me in the algorithm. Put that heart up. Please share it. Go to my YouTube page at Betterism. My name is Lachey Taylor on there. Um, Subscribe to the channel and like, share anything that will get me in the algorithm so that we can get this really powerful message, these really powerful and magnificent personalities out into the metaverse. Because, these are healing conversations. These are conversations that help to evolve not only ourselves personally, but just the planet. It's about just creating a better world ultimately, and we change the world by changing ourselves first. But it starts with these conversations and this dialogue and planting the seeds of change and just like that thought leadership, so to speak. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. I love you so much. Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate your attention that you paid to us today, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining us on the Betterism podcast. I love you. Bye.